this beautiful Sunday. If where I mean, it's beautiful where I am, so I want to believe it's also beautiful where you are. It's another time for a little chit chat. It's one of those cool Sunday afternoon after after church and having brunch with the family. I decided to come live because today is the last day of our lunch pre-order of our new books. Yes, I just launched two amazing books recently: Destined for Greatness and Wisdom Stories for Champions. And I am so excited. Yes, I am super excited about these two books because I have learned, in my parenting journey and in my journey, my purpose journey, that one of the best ways as a parent that you can preserve your legacy, in fact, the biggest way that you can preserve your legacy as a parent, your beliefs, your ideology, your faith, your values, all of that. The biggest way to do this is in how well or how much you are able to pass down your convictions to your children. So, if you are going to equip your child and if you are going to pass down your legacy that is deeper than just materialism, that is deeper than just wealth that can go away, right? That is deeper than just, what your child can use temporarily, then your job is to pass down your convictions to your child. So many times you hear parents say things like, "Oh, do you know whose child you are?" Sometimes we even use, our family values. We use it so easily because everybody is talking about our values all of a sudden. So many families have learned to, talk about their family values without even understanding what those values are. So even for those who understand what those values are, the challenge is how to make the children, like how to make our children understand what those values are. Sorry, I'm sure you noticed there's been a reduction in the intensity of the light. It will come back on in a few minutes. Sorry about this. All right. So a lot of times, even when we know what those convictions are, when we have those convictions ourselves, the challenge is, does your child, or are you raising children who understand your convictions and who are able to form their own convictions? So many times this isn't the case. So we end up talking about the fact that we have our values, the fact that we believe in certain things, but if we don't think about it seriously and we don't get really intentional about passing down those values, those ideologies, basically our convictions. If we do not get intentional about passing down our convictions to our children, do you know that we would actually not be in sync with them, or we could actually not be in sync with them? So there is a need to intentionally curate a system. All right, there's a need to intentionally curate a system, intentionally, pass down our convictions to our children. Sorry, it is getting a bit noisy around here. If you just give me a second and I will do some adjustments, you know to make that go away. Alrighty, I'm right here. Okay. So I needed to reduce the noise that was coming in. Yeah, so you can see me again bright as I was earlier. All right, so if we don't create a system, right, a system that will help us pass our convictions to our children, then we would just end up doing a lot of preaching and talking, and yet we are unable to pass that our convictions. I think that is what happened to a lot of our parents, especially for our generation. I think that's what happened between a lot of us and our parents. So it's everything. It starts with religion, first of all. So many of us, came from backgrounds where, we came from backgrounds where our parents, we had to, at some point change our faith. We had to, at some point, swing a different way from, our parents, basically. And if you go back and you look deeply at why that happened, it was because our parents didn't know how to sell their convictions to us. They didn't know how to pass down those convictions to us. So basically, we grew and we got to the point where, right? I can't deal. I can't get, why I am doing this with you. I can't get why the way you choose your faith is my faith. So whether or not, what we found was better, or, the important thing to note is that we were able to, find ourselves, or we were able to, look different. Go a different way, because our parents couldn't pass down their convictions to us, or didn't know how to do it, or did not even bother to do it because they didn't think there was a need for it. So of course, when you come of age, you begin to, put piece together, and make a lot of decisions, because of for that reason. All right. It's the same thing also with marriage, and all of that. With marriage, a lot of us, a lot of people, had conflicts with their parents when it came to who they settled with, who they married. You came home with a wife, or you came home with a husband, and there was that tussle. Your parents didn't want them for this reason or for that reason. Truth about it is because there was no convictions, or there were no convictions passed down. There were no standards, convictions, and even when our parents thought that they had certain standards, and probably made noise about it, and quarreled about it, and talked about it, they didn't put themselves in that place where they thought that, their belief around these things should be a legacy. And of course, that legacy or that belief was put, in a way that was convincing, or that would be convincing to their prodigies, their children, basically, and all of that. So it's the same thing. So it ends up affecting every aspect. Okay, I've talked about, how it pans out in our religious beliefs, and our choices, as we grow older. So we've seen so many families where their parents, faith, by way of their parents' faith, or by way of their beliefs around religion, is, different from the children's. And yes, as I said, it's because those convictions were not passed, or the parents didn't think that there was going to be a need, right, to put their convictions together and make their children see, what it is that they wanted them to see, or what it is that they stood for, what it is, or their why behind what they did. So because that isn't the case, it just turned out being a case of, fighting and quarreling. You can't go there, you can't go to this church, you can't go to that, you can't change to this religion, and all of that. The issue is not whether the child is changing denomination or changing religion and all of that. The issue is that as a parent, you didn't pass your convictions enough, or you didn't do it in the right way. And so you were not able to pass down what you were convinced about where religion is concerned down to your child. Same thing, as I said, it happens in the same thing with marriage. That one is a lot. They will pass down their convictions, we all just flow, sometimes even the things that they say. And now, when I talk about convictions, I'm not saying that the parents probably don't throw it here and there, or say, what they think about, marrying, or how marriage should be. But because it's not something that is an effort is put into it, and intentionally that conviction is passed down over time, That's why it's the same thing with education too. All right, for some families, what is your core? Is your core education? Is education a thing for you in your family? It could be a thing for you. I mean, the father, you're a professor, your wife is a doctor, but for some reason that conviction was not passed. The why, basically, the conviction is usually the why we are like this, or why we choose this, and why this is important, and then passing down this in a way that is not forced, in a way that leads to believability. Okay, as my coach would put it, the way that leads to the person that you're convincing believing in your convictions. Okay, and usually those convictions come from the things that we do with them consistently and how we live out those things. Now, the challenge is, how do I begin to pass my convictions down to my 6 year olds, my 7 year olds, my 10 year olds, and all that? I want to share with you one amazing way that we pass down our convictions to our children. All right. And I think you should, you know, go in and start using this strategy to pass your convictions down to your school age children and your preteens. I'm all about preteens, right? And young children. So to that 6, your 7, your 10 year old, how do you begin to pass your convictions? Begin to look for, I mean, first of all, you want to foster a culture where your child can actually sit down, have conversations about things besides just food and movies and games and PlayStation. So you need to begin to help your children develop themselves personally. You need to start having conversations with your children that have got depth. Okay, you need to start having conversations that have got depth. You need to start talking to your children and you should open a conversation line where you talk about all kinds of issues. You talk about the issues that affect you as a family. You talk about the issues that are happening in the nation. You talk about the things, that are happening around them. You have conversations like, okay, what do we do now? You create small projects and do small projects together. You make family decisions together. We just finished having a meeting, um, family meeting with the children a few minutes ago. Okay, just after brunch. So we have brunch usually on Sunday. Just after brunch, we had a family meeting. And in that meeting, what were we talking about? In that meeting, we were talking back to school. Now, because we are that intentional, and because, right, we want depth to whatever it is that we're doing. Now, it's simple. We're going back to school. Is it not back to school? We should just go buy the things that they need, as is the case in many, in the case in the past, right? This will be the case in, a few years, before now. It will be just, what do we do when we go back to school? We get back to school, isn't it? All the things that they need in place, and all of that. And then the day before they go to school, you just sit down, or you pray together, or that day of school, you pray for them, and then they go to school. All right. But when you start thinking depth, when you start thinking legacy, when you start thinking, about passing down your convictions, then you don't just have conversations one off. You don't just do, that fire brigade thing. You don't just do that. Oh, before you go, just come, let's pray. Okay, good, school will be well. No, you think about it, and you think, what are the things that this child is going to need when the child goes to school this term? All right, what is this child going to need when he goes back to school this year? Where are the areas of this child's life, okay, that is associated with this new phase? It's a new school year. What are the things that I need to bring to light to the child and share our convictions as a family, on this subject with the child? The moment you're thinking of this, then you are not doing, fire brigade attitude. The moment you're thinking like this, then you're thinking depth. So that way, we talked about with the children today, we talked about being prepared psychologically. We just tweaked our bedtime, right? Even though we change it just a little, we try not to make the children feel that holiday is time to do as you like, sleep when you like, and wake up when you like, because it's a holiday. All right. So we tweaked it a little and allowed them a little extra time, 30 minutes here, 45 minutes here, because of the holiday. But today, now we are back to normal school time, because psychologically, the holiday is ended to this Sunday, psychologically. So psychologically, we're already preparing the children for school, preparing them for, and all of that. So basically, all of that, it's you being having depth in your conversation. So first of all, you want to have depth in your conversation with your children. Now, when you have established this kind of relationship with your children, or you have established this extent of productivity or resourcefulness, right? If you have established this level of productivity empowerment to your child, then you have already created a soft landing for your convictions, basically. So meaning, when you say we need to have a meeting, or when you say, oh, we need to talk about this, or when you start talking about this, I mean, when you are probably in the kitchen, or you are driving, somewhere, or whatever it is, your child, it's not off for your child. Your child is not bored, right? Your child is not bored because all of a sudden you're not just talking about food and silly things. Your child is not bored. It's not off for your child. It's normal that you have these conversations that affect your lives. It's normal because it's something that you have established before now. So yes, if you are not in that space, or you don't do this with your children, get yourself into that space where you have routine, period, where you sit and you have real conversations that affect your lives as a family, where you sit down and you are budgeting for the month, and everybody sits down. I mean, you and the children sit down, and one person is creating the list, for perishable stuff, another one is creating the list for provisions and all of that. These are simple ways that you can get your children to start talking and discussing important things. Okay, at the end of service or mass, at the end of the day, I mean church, you come back and you sit down and you have those conversations like that too. And then you can actually, look at the conversation that was had in school. You talk, I mean, church, and then you talk about it. Or you have those Bible study times, or whatever religion you are, the study time of the scriptures. And after that, you are not preaching to your children. All right. You don't finish scripture, and every time you're preaching, you finish the scripture and you have a conversation. That way, you're introducing your children to that place where they begin to have meaningful conversations that are empowering. You begin to have conversations because they are already building and developing themselves. So that's the first thing, okay? Only two I'm sharing with you. The second one is you want to look for resources, you want to look for tools that will reinforce what it is that you believe in. You want to look for tools, you want to look for resources. Okay, resources, you want to look for these things that will actually reinforce what it is, your values, your beliefs, your convictions, all of that. You want to look for that. And this basically is the central reason why we create the kind of resources that we create at PTM. Okay, PTM resources. So I write for children, I write books for children, create resources for children, and all of that. This is the reason behind it. So I have not created a single book, I've not written a single book that is not a conversation starter for parents and children. Because I work with preteens, because I work with young children, and preteens, I work with children between ages 6 and ages 13. All right. Because I work with this group of children, I understand how key or how primary it is that we begin to pass our convictions to this group of children. It is one of the best times to pass your convictions, basically, because between 0 and 6, you're building foundation, you are modeling, you're building foundation, you are modeling, you're paying attention to creating stimulation in the child's environment. You're programming the child. Okay, you're programming what it is that you want to see in the children. You're doing all of that from 0 to 6. You are paying attention to when the children are ready for certain skills. Okay, we call them the window period, right? For those skills, when nature will pull the child naturally to build those skills in the most authentic way without the child having to struggle. So you're paying attention for when your child is ready for language, when your child is ready for organization skill, when your child is ready for building their muscles, you're paying attention to these things in the foundation years. Now, after the foundation years, when your children get into that age, after 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, what is happening is your children are beginning to they're becoming autonomous. They become independent. So what will happen is they are going to take all of these convictions, or I mean, all of these programming that you have done, before now. They will take all of the programming you will have done and they begin to add their individuality to it. So this is when your children begin to express what they've absorbed, the experiences they've had, the things that they picked from you, picked from their environment, picked from around. Now this will begin to manifest. Now this is the time, at the time where the children are about to start manifesting, or they are still considering, should I do as mommy said, should I do differently? Go, Kamili Chuku, who is this? All right, this must be someone that knows me. So at the point where the children are now beginning to, okay, should I go like this? Should I here? This is where your convictions now come in. Remember, they are beginning to make choices. Informed choices is what they should make. Your convictions is what will help them make those informed choices. So, what do you believe about education? What do you believe about marriage? What do you believe about, about everything, whatever area of life at all? Your convictions are important at this point. And as I said, those convictions are easily passed when you already have a system where you have conversations. You have all kinds of conversations with your children. Oh, what was it in church today? What was it we read today? Your children can share their perspective. You can share your perspective. You can reason together. You are not feeling them every day, preaching, and telling them the only way is my way. You're already having conversations, listening to their views, okay, saying to them, okay, can we look at this differently? Can we talk about it? Okay, can you go and do a bit of research? Let's look at it together again tomorrow. As you're doing your child is building confidence. Your child is being confident. Your child is trusting you. Your child is open and ready for more and to learn. Now, you now use the resources we're talking about. You now use the resources we are talking about to now convince them with those resources. Okay, so my new book, right? What do you call it? Destined for Greatness is about, I have used African icons, like African icons that are relatable. I've used the stories of people like Gabriel Selassie. I've used the stories, of stories of people like Okonjo Iweala. I've used the stories of Mandela. I've used the stories of real African heroes now. And these stories, I didn't just take their stories at the beginning. I went to do a lot of research about how they grew up and, the seeds that led to them becoming who they became. Now you have that 8-year-old, 10-year-old that has certain hobbies and certain skills that do not even understand the power that lies within the free gifts that God has given to them. Okay, now you are pointing them to people who can inspire this, or people who had probably less skills that they had, and they used it to impact the world and became icons in the continent, and the world even recognizes them. This is what we're talking about. Now, this is you passing down your values and passing down, your beliefs around this thing to your children. But then again, it is passed down in stories. So we tell stories. I don't know how to teach without telling stories. So they are like real life stories, and then the stories with real icons who are inspiring and all that. So your child is enjoying a story, but your child is seeing models. Your child is enjoying a story, but the child is seeing, your child is seeing experiences. Your child is listening to a story, but your child is seeing other people, the values and the characteristics and then traits that people have exhibited that have helped them become the superpowers or the icons that they become. While you're doing this, you are building your convictions. You're passing down your convictions to the child. You are helping the child see a picture of what that conviction can lead to. That's what we are talking about. So yes, Destined for Greatness has got powerful stories like this. All right. And then wisdom stories for champions. In fact, I was in church today, and the scripture was from, that part of the word that said that Jesus was actually saying to, the people were saying to the scribes and Pharisees, I guess, and he was saying to them, they were complaining about the disciples not washing their hands, like the Jews and every other person does, and all of that, and Jesus, of course, in his way, came and said, it is not what you put into your mouth, right? But rather what it is that comes out of you, basically. And yeah, I was shocked in there when foolishness was named as one of those sins, one of those things that come out of you that are worse than the things that you take in that contaminates you. So no, we do not have any business with raising children who are foolish. That's what it means. You don't have a single business raising a child who is foolish. So no, our children do not have a single business being foolish in any way. I said that much to the children in our meeting today. So even foolishness is a sin. Even foolishness is you not living in your purpose. So being able to make informed choices and have wisdom is a thing. And that's what this story does. Wisdom stories for champions would take real life situations, and the children were on holiday with grandma, and grandma took every teachable opportunity to pass down wisdom to the children. All right, so this book will promote family tradition, family tradition. It will promote the family, your values and how you should value family, right? Even in your core, basically, it promotes all of these amazing books, I dare say. I wrote this book. My 9-year-old daughter read Wisdom Stories for Champions, and she's like, oh, this is my best of the wisdom, of the champions series, basically stories for champions series. So this is the fourth of our stories for champions series, and the fourth two of our skill up series, basically two amazing books. And today you can still loot us, because today we still have a 20% discount for those who want to order the book today or pre-order the books today. All right. So instead of paying 9,000, you still get to pay 7,000 for the two books. 7,000 instead of 9,000. Okay. 6,999 actually, instead of 9,000 for the books. And guess what? That's not all. You get extra perks that will end after today. Your child gets to be a part of my masterclass that I will be teaching on Friday. Okay, the Set to Excel in School masterclass. Please, whatever you do, make sure that your young children do not miss that. If you have a 7-year-old through 13, then let them come. I'm going to have a session with them. I want to teach them how to go back to school powerfully and excel. I want to teach them how to prepare beyond just physically. I want to teach them how to prepare psychologically, spiritually, and every way to excel in school. I want to teach them how to study. I want to teach them all of that. I'm an educator, right? So basically, it's me. It's the kind of me that they'll be meeting when they go to school in their classroom. So yes, I want to teach them what my expectations will be as their homeroom teacher or as their subject teacher, and all of that. So whatever you do, make sure your children do not miss that masterclass. It's not for parents. It is for your young children. 7 to about 14-year-olds can come. 13, 14 can come for that meeting. But hey, you only get access to that meeting when you have bought copies. You have pre-ordered your book. Look at it. You can actually pay 3,500 naira to come for that meeting, right? But you can get that meeting for free, and you can still get books worth only about 6,999. And guess what? You would also get a parent's guide on how to teach your child to study independently. You will get that guide for free. That's not all. You will get another guide, our back to school guide. You also get our back to school guide for free for you, the parents. So you see, it's a win everywhere. The perks are just so many. These perks alone are worth close to 20,000 naira. So you get this all because you have bought a book for 6,999. And that offer ends today at 11:59 p.m. After that, offer is off the table. So if you would like to grab that offer, it's been on for some time. In fact, we had a flash sale where we had 40% discounts. Those who keyed in on that one, kudos to you. Now we have this 20% discount and all the perks still on ground. So you don't miss this one if you missed the other one or the previous one. Go ahead and make sure that you get this one. So you have the information on the screen scrolling right now. You can just screen grab that and use that to make payments for the to pre-order the books. Okay, you would also have the information in the description and in the comment section to do the same thing. All right, this is me about to sign out because this is supposed to be a 30 minutes chit chat. If you have any question, please put them in the comments and I would respond to them. Thank you for joining me for the session. Thank you for being here. Thank you for pre-ordering our book. The books are available in 2 days. We will launch here on Tuesday, and after that, your books, in fact, your books are probably on their way to you while we're launching on Tuesday. Thank you very much for those who are pre-ordered. We do not take your support. We do not take you recognizing a wonderful resource for granted, or recognizing these wonderful resources for granted. Your children will love reading this book. Easy reads, fantastic conversation starters, and of course, a blessing to you. And yes, you get a bond with them. Yes. Thank you very much for joining me. I will see you soon. 30 minutes exactly, and I'm signing out. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your parenting journey. Bye now. Bye bye, everyone.